Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Honored Ones podcast, officially back from our 1-week hiatus. I hope you guys missed us, because I certainly missed this. What about you, BR?
I did definitely miss us. I will say that. I'm not being held hostage to say that, in fact. But yeah, welcome back. It has been a decently long time from you guys' perspective, especially since you've last heard from us. But we do have a lot to talk about this episode, so you guys should be in for quite the ride.
Yeah, and it's a very special episode, because in this one we're going to be talking about the JJK Zero movie, the My Hero Academia chapters, and the Jujutsu Kaisen chapter. But it's funny, BR, I was thinking about this, and it just occurred to me, I think we kind of blew our load with the title and thumbnail last episode, because it would have been a great time to whip out Yuta again, because you don't think it's going to be weird to like use him in the title and thumbnail a second time consecutively?
It definitely will be kind of like, that'll be interesting, I'll say. Like, I mean, okay. Are we really crafting a title on whatever pitting Yuta and Yuji versus each other? I think might be the play for this one, because a lot of people are saying like I've noticed on Twitter a lot of people are saying like oh now that Volume 0 is out, yeah they're like Yuta should have been the main character, Yuji kind of is garbage in comparison to him, which I'm like, you're kind of wild for that, but we can get into that as we talk more about like the chapters and like Volume 0 as a movie and stuff like that.
A similar thought, but I did kind of do the thing where I drew mental parallels to their stories, especially because like Gege almost drew the first like intros kind of beat for beat.
Look at their entire narrative, bro. Like let's look at it, right? They're both put in like they're both about to be executed for consuming or being part of a cursed spirit that's extremely powerful. Rika's the queen of curses, Sukun is the king of curses. Yeah, they both house them, and basically their whole thing is being trained by Gojo at Jujutsu High, because if they don't, they're going to be killed. I mean, Yuji's going to be killed regardless, and they both have to sort of find their way through exercising cursed spirits. Yuta just does his thing a little bit quicker.
And I can't wait to get into that full discussion. All right, cool. I guess we have the title and thumbnail for this one. That's a load off my back. You know, I think like editing this podcast, if I'm being like rushed about it, it takes me a solid 4 to 6 hours depending on the length. And the title and thumbnail, if I have no idea how to like title it at all, takes me roughly 2 hours. So it's really nice to be treated with a you basically save me 2 hours here.
To start it off, I think we're gonna build up. We're gonna save a little bit of the best for last. So we're gonna go My Hero chapter first, and we're gonna go JJK chapter, then into Volume 0. So, what are your thoughts on My Hero?
By far the most horny chapter of the entire series.
Oh man, that's certainly an interesting way to start this off. Okay. Did you? I'll ask you like this. Did you enjoy this chapter? Were you someone you like it?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of hard to read it one-handed, but yeah, I generally liked it.
But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this chapter, because it was, like, fine. I think it did its job of, like, okay, we need Deku to get out of the picture, right? We need him to run away, like, and go fight against Shigaraki. We need Toga to, like, kind of give up on Deku, so that, like, her and Uraraka can have their little bout. But it's, like, I don't know, it was done in such, like, a just so typical way. Like, I don't know. I feel like Horikoshi gave me exactly what I expected. And that's like, and that's not bad, but it's not like great either. It's just kind of like
I can't say this chapter was disappointing by any means, but I can't say it was like good, because it literally met my expectations at eye level. Like that is the best way I can describe it. It was a My Hero Academia chapter of average quality.
And that's not like
no more, no
horrible
less
thing, right? Because My Hero, I like My Hero, Kreams likes My Hero as much as it seems to be the opposite, right? I have a My Hero like I did like an 8 out of 10 or whatever, right? So like its average quality is like pretty good, right? But like, man, in this arc, I just feel like there's just, I don't know. I feel like the beginning of this little war thing those first 2 chapters were so much more engaging than these past 3 chapters have been. Like seeing Bakugo and like Mirko, all of them fighting in Shigaraki has been like whatever. And then seeing this Deku and Toga chapter with Uraraka sprinkled in there too, it's just been sort of like fine. I guess it's just kind of like, comparisons are always going to happen, so it's kind of hard to like not subconsciously compare. But when you compare to other series in the magazine, specifically JJK for me at least, it's like JJK, meeting my expectations is just so much more disappointing than always having my expectations like blown out of the water. That isn't necessarily a fault of My Heroes, by the way. This isn't like a critique or a criticism. It's just an observation that I've had. It's just like it's like cool. It's whatever. I think it does its job. We have a little bit of an interesting, I guess, revelation about Danger Sense that we've already had. Kind of like it doesn't work on people who don't have like malicious intent. Even though like Toga is trying to harm Deku, when she likes him, Danger Sense doesn't go off. And then when she realizes that she won't be with him, we do see that Danger Sense actually activates, which is...
You know what I love about Danger Sense? It really does act like off-brand Spider Sense, or like Great Value Spider Sense. Because damn, dude, Peter Spider Sense warns him when like he's peeing too hard, you know, and like Deku's doesn't even go off when he's literally being stabbed at.
Yeah, it's certainly like interesting. I think I like that it isn't like too broken though. I like that there are ways around it. I don't know. I feel like it's like using Danger Sense as like this marker for Toga's feelings. I think is pretty creative because up until this point, Horikoshi's like, Danger Sense doesn't activate, but then on page like I don't know 7, I think of the chapter. He uses the paneling when Toga's attacking to indicate, oh yeah, Deku's Danger Sense is now working. This means Toga no longer is like in love with Deku and wants to like just straight up murder him or whatever.
For what it's worth, you know, jokes aside about it being horny, I did find it like a really good characterization moment for Toga. I do kind of wish there was a bit more preamble to it because, you know, the chapter he wasted on Hatsume that I will never forgive. I'm actually still mad about that. But the time he gave Hatsume, I would have loved that he gave to Toga instead to kind of establish how she went from like being mad or sad about twice dying to prepping for this war to her remembrance of the conversation with Uraraka. And then somehow that all kind of spirals into, yeah, bro, I just really want to fuck Deku. Like that's really what I'm all about. Like, I'm like, I feel like we missed the thread there. Because it feels like a weird, like the conclusion, it didn't come out of nowhere, right? But like contextually at this moment in time, seems a bit
like, okay, strange. So here's the thing. We already know that Toga likes Deku, right? Like everybody knows that. It's like been established since her character started. But it just does seem a little weird to have him pull up, no build up, because there's already like the twice thing that's kind of hanging in the background for a character. It is like a very weird bit of timing, I think. Like Horikoshi really has seemingly recently, by recently I mean like for the past arc, so like relatively recently, right? He has this weird thing where he spends way too much time on things that we don't need a lot of detail on, and then doesn't spend enough time setting up certain like small payoffs, but payoffs nonetheless that I feel like would make the story feel so much more like genuine, and just like it would make certain things like hit a bit more. Like I feel like, for example, I don't know, man. It just feels it's kind of like certain small payoffs do feel sort of underwhelming because of the lack of the proper, I feel like, contextual buildup.
So I'm glad you brought this up because it's something I've been wanting to talk about. I've noticed it recently a bit more when it comes to Shonen Jump's magazine as a whole. And I mean that in like every sense, current publishing and past publishing. And what I've realized is that new mangakas really do not have the time. Like they really are going in and out with their series. Like Gege's writing, I've said this consistently before, and I think, you know, you too, dude, it is crazy. Like there's no time wasted. It is just straight to business, every single chapter. And I think that's why it keeps like exceeding our expectations, because things constantly happen and it feels amazing and you look forward to it because you know, oh yeah, there's no such thing as a filler JJK chapter. The closest thing we have ever gotten to a filler JJK chapter was Higuruma's backstory, and it was amazing. Where this all kind of like culminates, and I think the most obvious place you see it is in series like, I'm not gonna use One Piece as the benchmark because it just breaks the scale, bro. Like One Piece literally broke my brain of like how long manga is. So after getting through 1,000+ chapters, episodes, whatever, I was like rereading My Hero, and I was like, man, I can't believe I'm already in the war arc. It feels like the series barely started. It's only 300 chapters. And then I'm like, oh my god, 300 chapters is like 8 years.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
That's a very long time. It's almost a decade of writing.
And Horikoshi's like on the longer side, you know, when you take the average out, right? And it's it's so weird to like still see like this weird, because I think he's an awkward middle child of old shonen and new shonen writing styles, where he has these moments of like really fast paced action. He could do this like really intense mini arcs, like with the Stars and Stripes arc. That was like what 5-6 chapters, and it was great, right? But it was like really well written. But great for what it was. It is the maximum level of good.
I agree.
Like, so, for what it was,
Horikoshi made in my opinion, a bad decision with introducing her here, and after making that bad decision,
nailed the execution.
Okay, I agree with that.
Other times he has like what I call Oda syndrome, or like Tite Kubo syndrome, where he just like, I can spare 3 to 4 chapters on some random filler characters.
And the thing is, I think what makes this hurt so much more is like, I don't mind you spending 3 to 4 chapters on random filler characters when I'm binge reading.
But that's a month in real time.
When I'm binge reading, I don't care, dude. Like, if you spend that chapter, if I would have gotten that Hatsume chapter when I was I was catching up to My Hero, that would have been fine, because it would have been 10 minutes, and then I got weekly. To a new chapter. But weekly, God, sometimes when you go super slow, that is insanely grating, and I get it. Build up is necessary, but what I'm talking about specifically is it's build up for shit that like nobody cares about. Like, bro, let's be real. There's not, I won't say there's not a single, because somebody's going to be like, bro, did you not know that this random person with like 2 followers on Twitter, like, is a Hatsume stan? Like, okay, sure, whatever, right? But generally speaking, like, Hatsume is not somebody that I feel like is going to be a fan favorite. Horikoshi didn't pull off like what Gege did with the Higuruma chapter, where you make an excellent character in one chapter. Hatsume is still lame, or just still like mediocre, like a tertiary character, which is fine. She doesn't need to be this super deep character because she's tertiary. She's not even a secondary character. But spending an entire chapter on a tertiary character that you don't even plan to make excellent in that chapter is kind of whatever, especially when I feel like certain things in certain payoffs are sacrificed for the sake of it. Just weirdly paced. I feel like that's the best way to put it. Like, because Gege, even though every chapter is fast, like, even he knows when to pull back. Like, I don't know if you were really like super into like or like super chronically online back then, but back when we were getting like those like the back-to-back like exposition heavy chapters where we had like Master Tengen like talking and explaining shit, people were like, dude, JJK fell off, right? It's ass now. Like, it's so boring. And it's like,
bro, what? That's when JJK was peak for me, because I'm a lore guy first, you know? And like, I love the fights a lot, but damn, bro, spending like 2 months on a fight, even for Gege, while he does like to make it cool and interject it with some level of world building, like things like Wicker Basket, the old age sorcerers, domains, all that shit, it's cool. But like, sometimes I'm like, yeah, man, I just want like 18 pages of straight lore and world building, because I'm just weird like that, right? And I definitely understand that not everybody's like that. So I appreciate the healthy balance he tries to nail. And you know what? No, he nails it.
In my opinion, he definitely does nail it, right? And I feel like that, in my opinion, is just like what buildup is, right? Not everything can be a fight. Not everything can be like a super like 10 out of 10 stakes wise thing, right? But that was buildup. I feel like he explained what he needed to explain in like 3 to 4 chapters. And guess what? Like, literally since then, it's all been fights. But the thing is, these fights aren't hollow. They aren't empty. They aren't devoid of emotion. And the reason, in my opinion, is because the buildup is proper. And when characters get to fighting, they get to fighting, and it's hype. In my opinion, Horikoshi kind of doesn't... I don't know how hot of a take this is, because like saying that My Hero doesn't do fights well is like spitting in the face of like its entire like genre, like as a battle shonen.
Nah, bro, because this is not it's not a new take, because like I think it was Giga who popularized the My Hero Academia fights are dull thing.
Here's the thing, they aren't like bad. They're visually, Horikoshi's a great artist. Nobody like disagrees with that, I feel like. But the thing is, it's just like there's something about them that just lacks like oomph. And I know that's like as like someone who's like supposed to be like kind of analytical of these things, like oomph is a very like nonsensical term that doesn't mean anything. But they seem to lack, like, if you are not emotionally invested in a My Hero fight, that is like the fight is like boring as shit most times, right? You have standouts, especially like early on in the
Mm-hmm.
anime. Like certain fights are visually hype, but in the manga, like Toga fighting against Deku or whatever, I'm not interested because of their fighting. I'm interested because of their dialogue, right? Whereas, and once again, I keep comparing to Gege, and I may come off as a real hater, but like Akutami's fights, just like they slap. Like even if you're not emotionally invested, I feel like they just slap. Like they're just fun. Like
They do.
like so here's the thing: you have the emotional investment that you can have, but they're also just exciting, and that excitement I feel like is
Yeah.
severely lacking from My Hero.
Yeah, because you don't get something like like the heat of his quirk goes up to like 1200 Kelvin. The other guy's body can only stand like
Yeah.
3000 degrees or something, right? Like there's no like the fights are really just vehicles
Mhm.
to tell the story, not so much like vehicles that are kind of a separate aspect of the story. Like you never think fights are I'm speaking in My Hero Academia, you never think fights are for the sake of like doing anything other than a clash of philosophies, when in Jujutsu Kaisen, not only are they a clash of philosophies, but they're also super fucking technical. They add on to the world and they obey the power system of the verse. Like there's so many layers to it. It doesn't just stop
I
at
think
like
I
the
think
story
this is the
purpose.
perfect way to put it, right? My Hero recently, like My Hero has some
Mm-hmm.
great fights, right? But I think what has made it so dull, and I'm gonna compare My Hero to like a spin-off, right? Rather than compare it to Akutami. So anybody that's been annoyed at that
Okay.
can hop off me, all right? But so like I think what it is My Hero fights never feel, or they have so recently they have not felt like anything is really at stake. And I know things are at stake, right? Like consciously, I get it, right? If the heroes lose,
Mm-hmm.
the world sucks, right? We get that. We understand that. Conceptually, it makes sense. I'm not like dumb. I know what the stakes are. I'm not forced to feel the stakes by Horikoshi, right? I feel like as an author, especially when presenting your story in a weekly method, it is your job to force me, like almost through your art and through your dialogue, to grab me by my shoulders and force me to like acknowledge and be emotionally engaged with the stakes, right? Force me to be aware of them and force me to sort of, how should I say this? Like engage with them, right? Because like conceptually, yes. Does everybody know that like, for example, let's take Black Clover, right? I'll use the spinoff analogy soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people are always like, "Oh, Black Clover has no stakes." Well, that's not true, right? Black Clover does have stakes. The stakes just feel like flat and very like just lame. Yeah,
Because you know
because
everybody's
you're
gonna
not
survive.
forced. Like, there's nothing indicative of like danger, right? Characters that you care about never
Mm-hmm.
feel like they're going to die. And technically speaking, like these past fights with like Lucifero and all this stuff, yeah, characters' lives have been at stake the entire fight, right? So like realistically, stakes are in play, but you as an audience, you as a reader, I should say, are not forced to engage with them and feel the reality of them, right? Whereas something like My Hero Academia Vigilantes, I've been kind of like ranting about that somewhat frequently on Twitter whenever those chapters drop. But like those fights have been like the most recent fight. It's just been super fun and engaging because I feel like wow, like the main character can really just die here or face like serious like life altering injury,
Yeah.
and even though it's not probable that he will, it feels like he can, right? It feels like he can
Yeah,
die.
bro, Gege, like
Mhm.
everybody's on the chopping block. Everybody's fair game. What I really enjoy is that like any one of the characters in JJK, including main characters,
Yeah.
as we've seen with Nobara, right? The world moves on. It keeps going. The story doesn't stop because one of them died. None of them are like chosen ones. In fact, it is actually to the world's
Yeah.
benefit that Yuji dies. Interesting, compelling stakes of JJK is like, okay, Yuji's still alive. I wonder how many people Sukuna's gonna kill
Exactly.
because of
Like
it down the
Yuji,
line.
here's the thing. It's crazy because even if Gege doesn't decide to kill Yuji at the current point in time, Sukuna being in play is having holding stakes right over our head in and of itself, right? Yuji
Yeah.
being alive is scary because Yuji's life equals Sukuna's life to a varying extent, right? And I feel like even in
Yeah.
fights that like our characters win, right? Megumi versus Reggie, right? Megumi won, but guess what? Now we have Angel just hovering over him, about to do God knows what. Like, bro, I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared. I don't know what Gege's gonna do to Megumi, bro. Like I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And because she can take away curse techniques, I'm like, yo, chill. That's all he's got going for him. He's not super strong and fast like Yuji. He cannot be out here with no curse technique. I'm begging you to not steal that from him, right? And I feel like
Yes.
it is a genuine possibility that Gege kills Megumi or kills Yuta or kills Hakari or kills Panda or any of these characters. Like, bro, think about it like this: Gojo, a character introduced from chapter 2 and is a relatively main character who got his entire flashback, like or entire arc dedicated to his flashback, is sealed and has been out of the picture for like almost 100 chapters, almost 2 years straight.
2 years straight in real time.
Being
Yeah.
a factor. Right? Nobara, as far as we know, is dead. And even if she isn't, the impact her death has had on the narrative in terms of like stakes is insane. Nanami's dead. Todo lost his curse technique because he cut one of his hands off. Like Kenjaku is doing God knows what, setting up this insane plan to kill everybody. Like, bro, I'm personally feeling the stakes. Whereas with My Hero, it's kind of like, damn, I know that they're there, but I don't emotionally resonate with them. And it's just like, ugh, I hate that. Like, to me, I mentioned this earlier about Deku, but specifically with My Hero, to me is like always on the cusp of being like this excellent, like JJK tier, like manga for me, right? It's always,
Yes.
yeah.
I've seen your tweets.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Deku as a protagonist, I actually agree with that take. I just think he's weirdly underdeveloped. Like, short of I want to be the next All Might or I want to save people, there is a lot of depth to Deku that I think just goes hella untapped, because I don't want to say he's taking everything in stride.
He's taking,
but
it's like taking everything in stride is fine. But please, for the love of God, get me some, put some real emphasis on your main character. Like, when Yuji's on screen, you always know what he's feeling. You always know what he's thinking. You always know, like, what is going on in his mind, right? With Deku, it's kind of just like,
well, he has to stop this, and that's it. Like,
and it's like, and that's why I'm always so like impassioned when I talk about like My Hero in a negative way, because it's like, damn, it's like, it's never bad enough for me to just write it off. Where I'm like, whatever. It's not gonna be good anyways. There's no point in me even getting like up in arms about it. It's always just like teetering and like hanging in that balance. Like, please, Horikoshi, I am begging you, like, write a story, because it's like I feel the potential. I've seen it, and I feel like if he just wrote at the way he has been able to, right, and he's done like semi occasionally at this point. He's like, damn, that's 2 series in my opinion that are just like excellent and standout. Deku is a character that can be like, I already think he's a really good character. I think he's one of the better characters in My Hero Academia, in fact. But it's like, give me, like, if he went into the same depth on Deku as he has with like Shigaraki or like Endeavor or Dabi, like, dude, please. I just feel like these side characters get so much more like introspective writing, whereas Deku doesn't. And maybe that's something that he's going to handle in the Shigaraki fight, possibly. But like, it's just always so frustrating to have like a series that you can feel be great, just be good.
That's a really good point to end on, because it's such a salient, like, profound description of the problem with My Hero Academia as it stands right now. It's kind of like My Hero Academia is kind of on a pendulum. It swings one way, and it's like peak shonen writing, just phenomenal character work, action, etc. And then on the other side, it's like, this is a waste of time. Like, straight up.
Yeah, it's just, God, man, it's just hard, because like I said, it's just like, I'm fine with it just being a good series, but I feel like it's just like, just so much like untapped potential, like so many minor flaws that add up into being something that like stops it from being great. And it's just a little frustrating, because I know Horikoshi can like meet all of my personal checkboxes to making a good series or a good chapter or a good character, because he's done it, and he's done it several times, like over the course of his writing career. It's just like when he doesn't do it, it's just like, okay, that's whatever, I guess. Like, you know, that's good, but God, man, you've already shown me that you can do great stuff. It just kind of hurts.
There's a couple different directions we can take this. One direction is that we can keep kind of going down this path, and it'll just straight up be a My Hero Academia roast session again. which I don't mind. We have a lot of fun with it. Second, it's kind of like a broader look at My Hero Academia IRL, just like how long it has left, or like at this rate, are we even going to get character development for certain things? That kind of discussion. And lastly is just kind of a discussion on like, I don't know if you hate conversations like these, but like, did blank fall off? So in this case, like, did My Hero Academia fall off?
Yeah, we can talk about it. I think the final two, we can kind of sort of combine those, because I think those are sort of like not one and the same, but like, are these characters even going to get good payoffs? And we can combine that with like, if so or if not, did it fall off type thing.
So, you know what I was thinking about, BR?
What's up?
If we made any of these criticisms back in like 2017, our mentions would be uninhabitable.
I mean, to be fair, we'd be wrong.
Yes. But like, the lack of backlash to a lot of these statements, because we've been hating on My Hero for a minute now, and we just have not received any fucking pushback. Like, and I'm not even talking like light pushback. I mean, none. Because I think even if we try to cushion it with, oh yeah, but we are big My Hero Academia fans, right, whatever, it still doesn't like stop anybody. Because dude, on the internet, no matter how much like rationalizations you make, if somebody wants to hate on you, they'll just fucking hate on you. They don't care, right? Especially if they feel particularly impassioned with a series. My Hero Academia, nothing. Not a fucking pip.
And to be fair, to be a little fair, right? If somebody said all this stuff about JJK, I wouldn't be like mad at them, but I'd be like,
you'd say something.
Should correct you. But yeah, I'd say something, but like, nah, that you're kind of missing on that one.
Well,
and I think
My Hero, nothing. Not a squeak, not a pip, nothing.
Exactly.
So
I feel like,
broader question: did My Hero Academia fall off because of all of this?
By fall off, do you mean? I'm assuming you don't, but I just want to ask, popularity-wise, like in terms of like how many people are like even paying attention to the series.
I think that's going to be the most interesting discussion to have, because like that's probably the one you could most objectively measure. But just for the sake of like brevity, I meant more like from a passion standpoint, right? Because there's a certain like, not to pull a Hikari again, but I'm just not feeling the fever, bro, when it comes to like My Hero. Like people are just not ride or dying anymore.
Kind of, but whenever you say something like that, you have to look at like your sample size and your circle, right? So look at it like this: do you surround yourself, or are you around people who are diehard fans of My Hero? Probably not, right? Like I would just guess. I know myself, I follow a handful of people that really, really fuck with My Hero, right? I follow a lot of people who like it, who enjoy it to a similar extent I do, but people who really fuck with My Hero like that, right? Mm-hmm. And some of those people have fallen off, or even just generally are now like disimpassioned. And the reason I hesitate is because, like, in the most recent like volume sales for it, sales are up. Like, it's just been steadily increasing. Like My Hero's popularity, right? It's just in terms of popularity and passion, probably not. Now, I think a little bit more nuanced discussion is like, has it fallen off in terms of quality? Like, is it just a shell of its former self? I think that like a little bit more of a nuanced discussion is like, its quality's fallen off. Even then, I personally am in the camp of no. The reason I say no is because to me, falling off means that like you've dropped at least 2 or 3 points quality wise, right? Mm-hmm. I may get a little bit of hate for this, which is fine, whatever. But to me, an example of something falling off is Tokyo Revengers, right? Tokyo Revengers went from like, this shit is like super duper fun. Like, I love everything about this series, right? This is like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 to, wow, this is a 6 out of 10. I hate this arc. Like, I really almost, I won't say despise, because I don't despise very many series. I only despise like 2 or 3, right? Mm-hmm. But this is like entirely unenjoyable. This is like legitimately kind of garbage, especially in comparison to what it was before. To answer both questions, basically here's how I look at it, right? My Hero has definitely not fallen off in terms of popularity. I think that its sales are doing, if I'm remembering correctly, better than they ever have, or at least they've been steadily inclining for a long while. In terms of like just general fan reception, I kind of like, I hesitate to answer that one way or another, just because I don't put myself in circles where like I'm around or like listening to a bunch of My Hero fanatics. So it's kind of hard to like gauge, because I'm just not like, I'm not really tapped into that community as much as like I am with like JJK fans or like other series and stuff like that. And then for the final thing, has it fallen off in terms of quality? No. However, I think it is fair to say that like it's become much less consistent. Like it still has certain chapters that I think are really fun chapters when he was like taking Aizawa's quirk and using warp and things like that. Like the chapters where he was featured in were really cool. They were really fun. And if like Horikoshi kept those up, I think My Hero could like suddenly rise back to how it was in its prime. But I don't think it's fallen off. I just think like a series is not always going to be on its A game.
After like 8 years.
Really yeah, exactly. So it's not really fallen off. It's just not as good as it has been in its peak. And I think that's like fine. As a reader, I wish it was, but like it's not like damn, this series like Horikoshi really like dropped the ball. It's just like he's just writing and he has a dip in his ability. Not in his ability, but like in the story's quality so far for me. But I think it's natural.
So do I, and I'm not saying this to disparage Horikoshi. I morally came at this conversation from a thought aspect because it's something I've considered when it comes to experience critiquing a series in a way that isn't always positive or necessarily constructive. You know, as I'm sure you know.
Of course.
So it was just like a little jarring because, like, man, we've been going. Both of us were co-conspirators here, just in case.
Of course.
Yeah, we've been going extra hard on My Hero, and I don't know about you, but I have not gotten a single comment or DM about it.
I mean, even when I say like, yeah, My Hero is like falling short of its potential, things like that, like on Twitter or whatever, nobody's really like said anything, which I think may just be in part because the things I say aren't reaching enough people to where they'd get mad, but also in part I just think a lot of people, at least in my circle, are sharing a similar experience of just being like, good, but damn, it was great before.
Yeah.
Which isn't like a fall off. Like, it's not like, okay, this was like peak and now it's like trash, right? It's just like, it's dropped like half a point, maybe a full point for some people. Like, for me, it went from, like, an 8.5, possible 9, to, like, an 8 over, like, the past, like, I don't know, couple dozen chapters or so. So it's not, like, a huge fall off. It's not, like, this thing that I'm like, oh, damn, like, it's trash now. It's just, like, it's whatever. It's just a good series that I know has the potential and, in fact, has been great before. So it's somewhat disappointing, and that's why I always come off as so, like, passionate. It's like, God, there was just so many small things that just irk me because of how much greater I feel like it can be.
And I definitely feel that, and I think I agree to that extent. I'm just wondering, you know, while we're still being controversial, I'm just wondering, at what point in the story did it quote unquote fall off? Was it like, yeah, man, this is a little bit slower. It's a little bit not as action packed.
So for me, it's not about action, but I think I get what you mean.
Yeah.
The point in the story where it consciously clicked for me. That I'm like, oh, this isn't like, I don't think I like this as much as I do. Or I don't think I like this as much as I did, right? It clicked for me during the conclusion of Deku versus Class 1A. It was the conclusion of their fight. And I was like, I'm not mad that the fight concluded like that. I'm mad that the fight concluded, or like that Deku had his quote-unquote conclusion to this arc here. Once again, it wasn't like horrendous. It wasn't like complete trash or anything. It was just like, that's when it like really mentally clicked. I was like, and then from then on, it just got really inconsistent for me. For like my enjoyment got really inconsistent, right? You know, then we went into the Stars and Stripes arc, which, you know, we talked about that on the podcast.
Billion times. That's where we started.
Yeah, exactly. Horikoshi made, in my opinion, a very, very, very bad decision introducing her into the narrative this late and in this fashion. He did the best that he could with that bad decision. But that bad decision is still a bad decision. And the arc, in my opinion, is not like, it doesn't like suck, but God, it just unnecessary. In my opinion, if you cut that out and just say Shigaraki's body really needs to acclimate to all of the damage that he's taken over time, it functions to do the same thing, at least so far. Maybe we'll get some crazy Stars and Stripes payoff, or like she's still alive inside of Shigaraki's whatever quirk stuff and like still doing minor damage. Maybe, I don't know, because the series is ongoing. I could always be like, that payoff could always happen later. But as of right now, as of the recording of this video, chapter 348 or whatever chapter it is, that arc could be cut out, and you just give some bullshit excuse like, oh, Shigaraki just needs to acclimate to his quirks more, and it functioned for the same thing without wasting our time, without giving us this like this very poorly handled, in my opinion, not poorly handled, but this poorly thought out plot device. Let's just imagine introducing Gojo in Shibuya, then having him sealed in that same arc. Like, ugh, that's just so unbelievably lame, in my opinion. It was about there where I was like, I don't like consistently love my hero anymore.
And I think that's fair. I don't know if Horikoshi lost the plot because, this is going to be making a broad assumption, but I don't care because I feel like it's probably the most likely thing that happened. I feel like he kind of hit a writing wall, and Stars and Stripes was just him trying to figure out a way out of it.
I've heard that Horikoshi got an editor change. Now, I don't know if it was around that time or just generally, but I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I've seen a lot of like My Hero fans talking about like how he got an editor that's like sort of notorious in the community for just like making mangaka do like worse. And that's kind of what prompted my question a while back of like how much do you think editors even contribute to a story?
Yeah, I remember the response I had was like very passionate.
Yeah, but basically that's where the question stemmed from because I was seeing a lot of people saying like, Horikoshi has been kind of very like he's been inconsistent ever since the editor change, and I'm thinking that's very. I mean, in my opinion, it's very possible that Horikoshi. I won't place a blame on an editor that I have no idea is even influencing, but it's just a possibility. Either way, like around 20 chapters ago, I realized, its chapters aren't usually hitting for me. It's like once in a blue moon, and that's also when I really realized, damn, Deku has so much potential that Horikoshi is just like hell bent on making sure he doesn't realize.
Here we go again, man.
Oh man, the Horikoshi hate train. But anyways,
and I love that it wasn't even a bad chapter that made us go down this path. It was a fine chapter. It was a solid 7 out of 10 chapter.
I think that's what made it too. It was just so fine that it made me think about like the state the series is in at the moment, where it's just like, please wow me, please throw me for a loop. Like I miss being thrown for a loop with this series.
I guess if Horikoshi, inevitably watches the Honored Ones podcast new episode, because he's a subscriber.
Big fan.
Yeah. He'll finally write properly based off our advice.
Horikoshi's gonna be like, yes, these two unprofessional writers. These two I'm going to take advice from them, and the story's going to get beat.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say this. If the next chapter, if chapter 349 is fire, just know it was us. So
yeah, you're welcome.
We'll be taking full 100% credit for that. Yeah. Thanks. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, good way to wrap up My Hero's thing this week. Wow. That was a bit of an underwhelming end for this. I'm so sorry. Like...
Okay, with that being said, why don't we talk about sort of the polar opposite, where it's always, to me, while like obviously I can't speak for other people, for me and my experience and the people who experience it around me, it's like Jujutsu Kaisen almost always hits, especially in the midst of a fight. God, did this fight literally have me like gasping for air as I was seeing Yuta pulling shit out. Like, dude, what? But let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. What? First of all, overall thoughts on the chapter.
Okay.
What you thinking of this JJK chapter?
9 out of 10. The only thing that didn't make it a 10 out of 10 for me was twofold. One, the fight almost seemed, as cool as it was, it borderline seemed useless because they were like, it's going to be decided by the domain battle. And it kind of made like the preamble just like a showcase for Yuta, which is why it like offset that for me. Because man, seeing him confirmed to still have the mimicry ability, whipping it out casually, just like without the horn this time, it was just like part of his lips, bro. I was fucking freaking out. And there's actually 2 experiences I had with this chapter. One before I watched the movie, and the second after I saw the movie. So here's the thing. I wanted to be a bit of a special boy, and so I heard about JJK Zero around the time I first got into Jujutsu Kaisen's main series. And I heard about the movie like 2 weeks after. So I was like, okay, if a movie's coming out, I'll just wait till it comes out then. Then I saw the first trailer, and I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely gotta wait until the movie comes out because the animation's gonna be fire. So then I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I realize, oh yeah, this is Japan's release date, not ours. Because I was like, oh yeah, it's like 2 months away. It's gonna come out in December. And so it didn't click with me that until we got an English release trailer, I was like, it's coming out in March. Fuck.
Yeah.
And at that point, it became kind of like a personal challenge for me. So I was like, fuck it. I already committed myself to this. I'm not going to bend on it. And damn it, bro, I'm so proud of myself. I kept that promise. And in the first time I ever watched JJK Zero or read JJK Zero or experienced any of the JJK Zero story was in theaters for the first time with my friend. So it was just like really happy to experience it that way. And it recontextualized the entire fight.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so what was so like which experience did you enjoy more? First read or read post movie?
Read post movie, because it made some of the dialogue hit a little bit harder, especially with what's her name? Iso?
Uro.
Say it again?
Uro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It made some of the dialogue with Uro make sense. It made his, first of all, it made the whole thing with Rika way more satisfying, because I was like, at the end of the movie, I was like, huh, Rika's gone. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And so I was glad that this was the chapter that came out that was like, oh yeah, this new Rika is just like an artificial thing he created that just holds his weapons.
Yeah, I store cursed energy and weapons here.
Yeah, it's like
I was like, okay, that's dope.
It's like if Megami's Shadow Locker was also the bouncer.
Exactly, right? Like, yeah, it's kind of like I imagine it as like what if Divine Dog held his weapons. Like, it's sort of like it's his primary go-to like assistance that can hold his abilities. And I think it also like I honestly think this chapter gave a little bit of credence to Kenjaku's statement of saying like, oh yeah, like there's no need for me to worry about Yuta, right? Because I think this put a hard limitation on his abilities, right? The fact that he can only go all out for 5 minutes now is very interesting.
Oh, I completely forgot about that part, because it was like just glossing over. You know what would you give it? Right? Let's do this shit properly, because we're professionals.
Of course, yeah, we never mess up. I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. It was like I can't have the reaction I had to this chapter and not say it was fire, like just all the way through, because like I was unbelievable. Like it was like if there was like a camera watching me being hyped, I'd be embarrassed to have like to show my reaction to it, because it was just so I was just like so hyped. I woke up, I was just like waiting. I was like, dude, God, please give me this chapter right now.
Yes.
And as soon as I hit 10, flip over, I'm like, oh, this is peak. This is amazing. When Rika pops up and they're like, oh my God, his cursed energy is like spiking again. I'm like, oh yes, dude. Especially because the way I did it is I watched the movie Thursday night. Then I went to sleep, came home after whatever, went to sleep. Then I woke up to this chapter, and I was like, dude, I think I have Kenjaku level planning, honestly, because I was like, that was perfect. I'm not gonna lie. Seeing that conclusion for Yuta in the prequel, then seeing him get to fight here, pretty cool. There's a lot of cool details in this chapter that I think we'll be able to go in depth on. But one of them that I really liked is Rika's. You can see the differences between this Rika
and old Rika,
yeah. This one's you can tell it's much more refined, because it's much smarter. Or she's much smarter.
It's also more under his control. Like old Rika seemed almost like acting on her own at times. And I think the obvious example was like getting rid of Maki when Yuta's about to heal. Shit like that, but like this Rika seems to just be like,
it is a Shikigami essentially.
Not a
old
Rika.
Old Rika was her own entity, right? Like the only reason she listened to Yuta is because she liked Yuta, right? But she had her own, like she got jealous, right? She got angry. Like the only reason she listened is just because she happened to be in love with Yuta. This one just seems more of like a master servant dynamic, more of like, hey, Megami doesn't really converse with his Shikigami. He tells them to do stuff, and they do stuff, right? It seems similar.
Sometimes he doesn't even give them verbal commands. He just he just controls them.
Wills them to do things. Yeah.
And also, one of the biggest revelations that I think went under the radar is that now it's like officially confirmed that Yuta's curse technique is mimicry. Like before, it was just kind of like, oh, this is a thing he can do. Not like his official curse technique.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what'd you think about that? Like, finally, and him like whipping out Toge's techniques and like all this shit.
Yeah, it was super fun. I think it was pretty cool. I think what I'm looking forward to is because Gege does this a lot, where he like mentions a technique, but he doesn't explain it in full in that chapter. He lets you kind of guess what it is. Like, for example, Megami got his ability, like his technique introduced in chapter 1, right? Like, we saw what it could do to some extent, but like we didn't really get a full explanation of that for a very long time. We kind of just were like, oh, he can make dogs, I guess, and it was something that he slowly unfurled. So I'm interested in like why he doesn't have the infinity or why he doesn't have this, that, and the third. I'm guessing there are some special conditions that he must fulfill in order to gain certain abilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he needs to defeat a character or something along those lines. Maybe I don't know, because obviously he hasn't beaten up Inumaki or anything, but I'd imagine a technique like Uro's would be very useful, but he obviously hasn't just taken it. So I would wonder why that's the case. If if it's just as easy as I see your technique is now mine.
Yeah.
Right. Which I don't think it is.
So this might be a bit of a guessing game on my end, and like obviously it's purely speculation. But I'm about to pull on my tinfoil hat thing.
Okay.
I doubt Ege will ever properly give Yuta's abilities the full rundown here, only because it seems like he doesn't need it beyond a simple he can copy or he can do this or that, and it's fine. Like Yuta is one of those characters who even before this chapter we kind of had like a vague understanding of like how like why he was impressive, right? And it was essentially just, oh, I have a lot of cursed energy. I have more than Gojo. And it was like, okay, cool. And then we just kind of rode that wave until like this last chapter.
Yeah. So
giving him like a play-by-play, like, oh yeah, he needs an emotional connection to copy the techniques of somebody properly, which by the way is not the case, because like he was able to copy the old guy's technique that he beat on the way into the Sendai colony. So I'm assuming it really just is like if it's used on him, he can copy it.
That's certainly possible. The only reason I say I don't think that he's going to be vague is one, I just think it's pretty consistent for Akutami to over time like really flesh out and deal with the limitations of even like insanely powerful characters like Gojo, right?
Wait, but
Gojo,
do you think like this next chapter it's the end of the Sendai colony arc with Yuta's fights? Like a domain expansion battle is kind of it's historically it's the finale.
Yeah, it's the pinnacle of everything. Yeah, right. Like if you're not beating somebody with this, either like it's literally either they win off of their domains or it's just
they die.
This person survived the domain and now like
they're fodder.
I'm cleaning. Yeah, and now I'm cleaning up.
Yeah,
basically.
It's either. And on the very rare occasion that they're Mahito, they escape.
Exactly, right?
So my whole thing is like a domain expansion is not the most appropriate time to explain a run of the mill curse technique, and if the fight's going to be over. All right, go on. Sorry.
So what I was going to say is there's two ways he could do it, right? For one, we know domain expansions typically are just extensions or enhancements of your inherent techniques, right? So like Gojo brings people, he basically imposes like what he like infinity onto other people. Megumi makes a domain of shadows. Sukuna just like gets a larger range.
He gets a cutting board essentially.
Yeah. Exactly, right? All these characters get abilities that they already have but just enhanced. So one, if he wanted to do it in this chapter, we could get some vague limitations based off the domain. But two, he doesn't have to explain it in this chapter, right?
Oh, you think
I'm just saying
this isn't like going to be the peak Yuta fight?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I think that's where we differ. All right.
Yeah. I think so. I think Yuta, this fight is going to end soon. I just don't think this is like Yuta's like this isn't going to be Yuta's biggest fight scale wise. Now, when his next fight comes, maybe you'll think that this fight is better, and that's fine. But I don't think in terms of scale or narrative impact, this is the biggest fight Yuta is going to take place in. Because keep in mind, this is day one for them, right?
Dude, I saw that tweet. It was like this is all within one day.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. The Culling game still has what 7 more days?
Well, 7 more days. In order to get enough like points to save, like we're not 7 more days. The hard limit they've been aware of is they need to get enough points to save like Sumiki,
yeah,
right? But they've done that, so their hard limit is kind of just like it's been annulled, kind of. Now I'm guessing we'll get another time limit because I think that's an easy way to raise stakes. But so far, it's kind of just like. I mean, we don't really know what you need to do right now.
The time limit, like the more broader time limit is probably going to be Kenjaku's bomb.
Yeah.
Which I almost forgot about.
Which I think is honestly great. Like when you kind of like, it's just like, yeah, you're dealing with the small fry stuff.
Yeah.
And this small fry stuff is so important that like you can literally be overwhelmed by it. But basically, I don't think this is Yuta's peak fight. What I imagine this is going to be is like, you know how we got introduced to Gojo's red in the Jogo fight.
Uh
But we don't get an explanation to that until like 70 chapters later or something. I don't know, like 50 chapters later.
yeah, with the
Um,
Toji thing, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think it'll be now the amount of time between them might not be similar, but I think there is absolutely no need. Now he can, and I'm perfectly fine with either. But I think it's consistent for Gege as a writer to kind of just be like, yeah, we know he can do this, and I'm going to wait until it's necessary to show the limitations and show like the specifics and show the mechanics. And I think that's really exciting because if he decides to wait, now we have this sort of suspense that because we know it's too broken for you to just be able to, hey, this technique is mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just know that. Like for Yuta to not be like stronger or at least like a Gojo level threat, right? Which he obviously isn't. He would have to have some sort of hard limitation on his copying or mimicking ability. And because we know there's some hard limitation, I feel like we as the audience like impose stakes on ourselves. We're like, oh, where is the limit for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And wherever Akutami decides to put that limit is going to be insane, in my opinion.
Okay, this is going to be, I think, the crux of why I think the way I do. And I think this might be a hot take, depending on where you land on this from a fan perspective and from, like, a fan of narrative writing perspective. I think Yuta's going to die. I'm just operating under, oh yeah, Yuta's days are numbered. And I don't really know when I started thinking that, but I just get, like, death vibes from him. I'm just like, oh yeah, he's going to die, 100%. And I've been having I don't know, bro. Like, I've been having trouble of figuring out why the fuck I think that. Like, Gege is giving me every indication to the opposite. Like, not only is he not gonna die, like he's killing, like he's cleaning up. Yeah. But for me, I'm just like, okay, so when's Kenjaku gonna kill him? Because if you're not worried about Yuta Okatsu, it means you have a way to kill Yuta Okatsu. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so I put it like this, right?
So do you think so? Yes or no?
I don't think Yuta is gonna die any more than I think like Megumi or Yuji are about to die, right? So that's not to say it's not. I don't think it's impossible, right? It's Akutami we're talking about. But I'm not particularly on guard for his death, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So the way I look at it is like this, right? To me, he's not in a very similar position because he's much stronger and he doesn't have that mentorship, right? But to me, he kind of comes off as like how Todo did when he showed up versus Mahito. I did not think Todo was going to die. I thought Todo was going to, and obviously he didn't, right?
Yeah.
But I thought he was going to uplift him, he was going to help Yuji, and they were going to like defeat Mahito together. Todo lost his technique.
Yeah.
Like Todo is not weak. He's still crushing like any first grade sorcerer, probably, right? Just off a straight hand.
Yeah.
But he's not a viable fighter as he is now.
And I
didn't expect that.
I don't even think his technique was that big of a loss when he's fighting solo, because it's not like he used it all the time, and it's not like he can, right? Like unless it's to get secret weapons that he stashed. Boogie Woogie is not like an offensive technique.
Yeah, for sure. It's just I think that we know that like Todo stated that he can handle like 5 grade 1 sorcerers without his not sorcerers but curses, right? But he used his technique for a special grade, so that makes me think, hey. Maybe Toto's hard limit in terms of like exercising ability without Boogie Woogie and without one hand is like a special, like your typical special grade.
Your
curse,
fodder
right?
special grade, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I think he's still very strong, but he's nowhere near Yuji anymore. To me, he's not even like Megumi's far surpassed him. Yuta's always been stronger, right? But I think Todo like was a character who I never expected to be taken out of the game the way he was. So when I say I don't think Yuta is going to die, it's not that I don't think he can. It's just that particularly right now, I'm not like more worried about him than I would be generally. So it's kind of just like, yeah, I'm scared, but like the same level of scared that I am about like most characters in Jujutsu Kaisen. Like it's not like a particular thing for Yuta. Now I do think that Yuta's like boldness about taking on Kenjaku is put much into question, especially now that we know the limitations of his ability. Depending on his domain expansion, Yuta may out himself right here, right now as a character who simply can't where he is currently. If his domain is broken, like it's like you're here, you lose type thing, sure. Maybe I can see why he'd even think so. But if it's not, if it's more of like a Dagon type of domain where you can, even if you're not like, you don't have a domain of your own, you can fight your way out of it. Like Naruto was kind of He was kind of throwing hands in it. Nanami was kind of throwing hands in it. Maki was kind of throwing hands in it, even before Megumi showed up.
Right.
If it's like that, no. His boasting is just that.
Well, I mean,
But
how do you take the whole Kenjaku Yuta thing? Because I actually give a lot of credence to Kenjaku as a narrator. I think he definitely knows what he's talking about a lot more than people give him credit for. And when it comes to something like, yeah, Yuta, he's cool, I guess, whatever, fuck him, then I'm like, okay. So he is either overestimating his abilities so hard right now, or he's just being arrogant, right? But he just has not been characterized that way. Kenjaku has not been shown to be like a hubris character. That just not like he's not Jogo.
So I don't think Kenjaku is full of hubris, nor do I think he's like dumb, right? I think he's I think if you're looking for like objective truths of the world, like this happened and this happened, right? Kenjaku is a pretty good source of like historical evidence. He's also a pretty good tactician.
Yeah.
But my issue is not my issue, but the hesitance to take what he says at face value is the fact that his expectations have been exceeded several times, even in just Shibuya, right? He expected to take Jogo's technique, but Sukuna was something that was out of his control.
Yes.
Like that play was something he didn't expect, right? He didn't expect Gojo to be able to like make this the prison realm unmovable for a certain amount of time. Right? That was something, even though his whole plan hinged on that was unexpected.
Yeah, but he right? never lost his composure even once.
No, I agree. Kenjaku's only been surprised, but what I'm saying is, I think it's like Kenjaku can generally be a smart and tactical character, but I think that like in times of supreme like confidence and confidence that honestly should be there because he's been like right most of the time, there's going to be an opportunity for him to be wrong. Like even with Yuji, right? He seemed to be now Kenjaku was still like in a position of power, so there's no reason to be scared. But he was like, damn, Yuji, you're tougher than I imagined, right? And I made you. Like I'm the one who built you to be the way that you are, and even I am surprised at your like your durability, right? So it's like
bro, damn, bro, I didn't know you were built like this.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, and I'm the one who built you. So I think if he can be wrong about those things, I think him already writing off Yuta, while he should know, like he's written off Yuta, and I think that's fine. I think if you were to say current Yuta can't touch Kenjaku, sure. But I still do think him being able to write off a sorcerer that powerful with this little of experience is dangerous because we know that characters at the drop of a hat can literally jump grade levels in ability, right? Gojo gets stabbed by Toji a bunch of times, wakes up, slaps Toji into the afterlife, right? Megumi tries to make a domain expansion one time and does it. Like, and you're telling me you're not worried that Yuta Okkotsu in the culling games can evolve to become someone who can be a threat to you? I don't know. I feel like he's like once he's made a plan, maybe he relies on everything going according to plan a bit too much. We'll see though. We don't know too much about Kenjaku's like nature and character, but I do think that there's some wiggle room to say, hey, Kenjaku can be wrong, and even if he isn't wrong now, we know consistently sorcerers like Yuji went from literal fodder to like in what, a couple of months
to a menace, like to a straight up threat.
Yeah. And I just don't think it's insane to say the Yuta Okkotsu that became a special grade in 3 months without life or death training, most likely, right?
Yeah.
Because Yuta's probably not fighting like Gojo to the death. He's probably training with like Maki and like Panda or whatever. He became special grade off of that. And if he goes from that in 3 months, I don't know why fighting some of the strongest sorcerers or curse spirits in existence can't make him drastically evolve.
So I don't disagree with you that is kind of an unknown X factor in the fight, but I'm not coming at it from like a 1v1 situation with Kenjaku. Like I don't think his plan is, oh yeah, if Yuta comes, I got this shit. He's not Miguel, right?
Yeah.
But it's like when he was faced with the problem of Gojo, his instinct wasn't I can take him. It was, oh, I have to seal this guy away, otherwise I will literally die. Like nothing I planned will come through to fruition if he is alive.
I think that's fair. The only reason I don't think Kenjaku's taking that stand is because with Gojo, he acknowledges, he's like, dude, even before, like when he's talking about his plan, he doesn't just say Gojo's not a threat. he says, Gojo, you're the biggest threat to my plans in existence,
Yeah.
right? But I made this special plan to get you out of the picture. With Yuta, in one page, he's just like, who cares about him, right? Endless curse energy and the ability to copy curse techniques. I'm not worried about that.
Hmm.
Like, now, I'm not saying Kenjaku thinks he's going to 1v1 him, but I also don't think Kenjaku's taking the same precautions, or at least he hasn't indicated that he's taking the same precautions or similar precautions with Yuta as he did Gojo. To me, it seems like he's like, Gojo, dude, I have to like formulate this like several month plan, getting everything in place, using humans to weaken you, using these curse spirits to trick you, all this stuff just to put you in a box,
Yeah.
right? But Yuta, he's like, whatever.
I'll
Like
deal with it
he's
as it
not.
comes.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it feels like. It feels like he's assessed Yuta's abilities, and he's like, they're not worrisome. And I'm like, I'm not even saying you're wrong. I just think it's kind of wild. I don't know. That's how I feel. I'm not even necessarily like super duper strong on the Yuta stronger than Kenjaku thing anymore, especially with the limitations we've seen. But I'm just more on the I think Kenjaku has definitely shown at least like hints of a flaw that might lead to his potential, like that might lead to his future downfall if Akutami even makes him lose, because we've already seen that he's made him win in a massive arc before. Who knows with this guy? Like maybe Kenjaku just wins. He just kills everybody. Like I don't know.
Right.
But
That'd be such a funny way. Like that's such a gay way to end the series. Okay, everybody's dead later.
yeah, Kenjaku just merged with humanity in one. Like, oh my god.
You know,
But yeah, if assuming Kenjaku's taken down, I think it's very possible that like Kenjaku's sort of not overestimation, but like his supreme confidence in his planning skills may lead him to be taken out by certain X factors.
I guess it depends on your perception of the Culling Games and the grander JJK story. Like, to what effect is the Culling Games meant to matter, right? Because if you take a look at the Night Parade of 100 Demons from the JJK movie / JJK Zero manga, which I guess is a natural segue into talking about the movie, because it relates a lot to what we're talking about right now. The Night Parade of 100 Demons didn't technically happen. Like it wasn't impressive, right? Like that was supposed to be the preamble for like this all-out war, essentially, right? Or like this all-out like genocide Geto had planned upon taking Rika. But the thing is, he failed at step one. Like that's a thing that really clicked with me during this movie. Like Geto failed like with like to get his foot in the door, so to speak, right? He was just he was so pathetic. And I mean this like with all due respect, because I think the way Geto went about it was very inspiring, but he was just so pathetic at like being a villain. He couldn't get past step one of his evil plan, and he lost to a guy that was practicing sorcery for like a couple months max, and he was like 16, right? And Geto was one of the 4 special grade curse users on the planet. With that being said, it like characterization aside, right? We can assume that Kenjaku has gotten rid of the weaknesses of Geto's mindset. Like I think you.
So what do you think the weaknesses of Geto's mindset were? Because I think that the reason Geto lost is just it wasn't really a mindset thing. He simply, with the arsenal he had, he just wasn't strong enough to put Yuta down.
He didn't attack him when he was using reverse curse technique, for example, right? He didn't like really go all out to like stop him from doing stuff during like the space between each part of the fight. You know that thing where like they fight, take a break for dialogue, fight again? Yeah. I don't know what the shorthand for that is called, but like that, essentially, right? He gave Yuta a lot of breathing room, and that's just not something that Kenjaku does. And on top of that, arsenal aside, it speaks volumes to Kenjaku's ability to better utilize Geto's body and his curse technique, because we've seen, man, through Kenjaku, Geto was he was a joke. He was not living up to his own potential, really.
You think so?
Oh, 100%. Like, yes, he trained to like an insane point, hand to hand. He knew how to use his techniques and all that crap, but he just didn't know how to apply the fact that like he was probably one of the strongest people on the planet, but he had this mindset of like being an underdog. And yes, his benchmark was Gojo, so I don't necessarily blame him for thinking that. But at the same time, like he wasn't acting like, oh yeah, I'm a legitimate threat to the world. He was already defeated mentally by Gojo.
I kind of disagree. So I don't think that he was mentally defeated by Gojo. I think Geto, as Gojo's best friend, just has a painfully like personal understanding of what Gojo is, right? Of like the sort of immeasurable gap between the two,
Yeah.
right? And that's why I think he was so bent on getting Rika, because Rika, like Gojo kind of implies it too, is for some reason a powerful enough creature to make Gojo like risk his life to do something. It's like, I don't know if you remember this, but like when the higher ups are like, yeah, Rika was out for like 422 seconds, like what were you doing? It's like she could have destroyed the whole town. And he's like, I'd risk my life to stop that. He didn't say I'd stop it. He didn't say I'd handle it. Like, I think that kind of implies like something about Rika is like a danger, or at least that Rika was dangerous to Gojo.
Let's talk about that from like the review standpoint for a sec, all right? Because it actually falls into a lot of, not issues I had with the movie, but like particular things of notice that I want to talk about on the podcast, right? A few things just that I thought were really fun that I just want to like address. They don't merit full combos, but they're just really neat. One, it was really cool to see Nanami set his Black Flash record on screen.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was really sick. It was really nice to see Toto and the rest of them fight during said event. The fight with Gojo and Miguel. We're gonna talk like circle back to that because it was just the funniest part of the movie in my opinion. Lastly, so is the romance between Yuta and Maki just like, is that implied? Like, am I crazy right now? Like what's the situation there?
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, it was set up like romantically, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like kind of. It's not like an overt thing.
Yeah.
It's just like Maki seems to be somewhat interested in Yuta, and Yuta seems to be somewhat interested in Maki.
Yeah, but like in the mainline series, it's just like old classmates. I don't know. It's strange.
I mean, they seem to be closer than not seem to be close, but like they seem to like have like this. I mean, Maki's not like a lovey-dovey type character, so like you're not gonna see her do anything.
Yes,
kind
and
of, like,
granted, she did just get
honesty.
like burnt to a crisp. I understand.
Yeah.
So she might not have been in the, best of moods.
The most nice and caring feel time. I just think like now Yuta's just like a caring person, so this doesn't necessarily mean like, oh yeah, he likes or whatever. But
because
like,
that's the way I read it.
Seems to when he pulls up, he's just like he's worried about her face, all that stuff. Like, to me it seems to be like, I don't know, the banter seems to be like, it doesn't. That's the thing. Like, Akutami's just really good at having characters like talk very fluently to each other. I feel like so. Like Yuta and Maki's interactions don't stand out here particularly crazily, but I do think like they're at the bare minimum shown to have like a really close relationship. Like when Yuta says, "Oh yeah, Hikari's like stronger than me when he gets upset," Maki's like, "No, he's not. Like, chill out." Like things like that. It's just like they're at least like very close friends. Obviously, I think Volume 0 is where you get the most of the implications. I think there's no appropriate time right now to really like. There's no time where they'd be focused on that. If that makes sense.
Oh no, I I agree. It was just like a funny. I wonder if Gege just abandoned that for whatever reason. I want to address what you said because I think it factors in. They adapted JJK0, the manga, pretty faithfully, right? I would argue almost too faithfully, because since it came out before the mainline series, a lot of the things that were stated or like are just established laws in the main verse are just slightly off kilter in the movie. And I wanted to know if you noticed it as well. They never said Gojo was the strongest in JJK0.
Yeah.
Never.
Do they?
Never.
No.
They never explicitly said Gojo was the strongest. And I don't think Gege meant for him to be. The reason I think this is simply because can you even imagine Black Blindfold Gojo saying something like, "I could die," like that phrase?
Probably not.
Yeah, it's just not a thing. Like even with this conversation with Yuji and Gojo, where he was like, "Oh, can you like who's stronger, you or him?" And Gojo was like, "Well, he might cause me a little trouble if he regained his full power, but I'd still win, like easy peasy, right?" Yeah. That's not the same Gojo that was in Zero. At least from my reading, right? So the fact that like he wasn't actually stated to be the strongest, the fact that like he wasn't treated as this absolute pillar that he is in the mainline series, and the fact that to bring up the Miguel thing, because like, dude, can we talk about this? Like, best moment in the entire movie, right? Aside from the fact that Miguel saw this guy perfectly grasped every aspect of his power and said, "But he's not me." He was like, yeah, it's like, that's psychotic to me. Because like, if you're going up against Gojo, Satoru Gojo, right? Who has made like actual full-blown old-ass adult sorcerers crap themselves at like 8 to 10 years old. You know, he made dudes retire by being born. That is not the guy that you just challenge like that. And Miguel is just not an idiot. Like, he's just not characterized as like a meathead or a simpleton, right? that's just not so
Sure.
like that reaction just doesn't jive if Gojo isn't the strongest in Zero. So the fact that it's
Okay,
like
so
implied,
I
yeah.
I kind of disagree with that. So Gojo, if you're I don't recall him ever being stated to be the strongest or whatever. So that makes sense. That's fine. But I do disagree that Gojo isn't like portrayed to just be like
A monster.
by and
No,
far
he is.
like the most
No, no.
powerful in the
I'm talking about
series.
like the super, like the other stuff, like the thing about like making people retire, the child with the six eyes and the Limitless from the Gojo clan, right? Like
Yeah.
that Gojo wasn't in JJK Zero, right? Like
I
that
mean,
aspect of his character from a lore perspective didn't seem present. He just seemed like the mentor in JJK Zero who happened to be really powerful, right? It wasn't so much like with he didn't give me that sense that like modern Gojo gave me, where if he shows up, the fight is over. Like when in the mainline series, when Gojo is about to enter a battle, or when Gojo is like there's no from the reader's perspective and from the character's perspective, that's it. Like that's he's got this, we can chill out, we can hang back. The thing is, right, Gojo was there on the front lines, didn't stop them, and I'll just say it, a lot of these sorcerers didn't need to die with Gojo being there, and it was such an open space that Gojo could have fought freely. Like JJK mainline Gojo could have fought freely to his heart's content, washed the entirety of Geto's cult, all of these cursed spirits. None of these sorcerers really had to die, because it's just like I keep saying, I'm sorry for like just repeating myself like this, because I feel like I'm not being very articulate with how I'm phrasing this, but modern Gojo, or like JJK proper Gojo, is the strongest in his verse, right? Like he is the pinnacle of Jujutsu society. He is the pinnacle of the powers in Jujutsu Kaisen. He is literally like the one above all in JJK, right? Like he is the status he wields, the power he wields. It's all like made very clear, made very blunt. Like that is the role he serves, right? In JJK Zero, he does not he's not treated the same way, and I just think that's like it makes them almost two separate characters, almost.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. The only thing I don't know if this is an issue or take contention with, I guess is the better way to put it, is Gojo didn't come off like that initially either, right? Gojo has several fights under his belt that have proven that to us, right? So like in my, like Gojo's first showing when he beats up Sukuna, like that's cool, right? But we have no like scale for that. Like, okay, he beat up like, you know, this Sukuna guy, like cool, yeah, whatever. He's strong, but that's established.
A couple things. In that fight, I think in the Japanese version, he said, "I'm the strongest," and I think in the English dub, he said something like, "I'm way too strong for that guy." I personally like the sub version. The thing he said in the next episode when Yuji was getting into JJK, before he saw the principal, he literally gave him like the full like baseball card stats of Sukuna, and by extension the audience, and he was like, "Yeah, this is the guy. He's like the big bad of this verse, right?" I still got him. He so sure. These things, while small, were like huge to show Gojo's status in the verse.
I mean, I don't disagree, but I feel like Gojo like one-shotting this curse with Red right after it pops up, Miguel hyping him up, even with this ability that like literally just disrupts his technique, like Gojo's still folding him. I think the reason I think Gojo didn't just single-handedly save everybody is solely because Miguel is like legitimately very strong, and he has an ability that makes it like so Gojo's like, here's the thing, Gojo's strong, right? But like he's not like a Yuji where a technique would just be like an add-on. Like his technique is very integral to why he's so powerful, right? Obviously, as shown in like the Jogo and Hanami fight, he is very powerful without a curse technique. But his curse technique is a huge part to like his overall power, right? As most sorcerers are. So Miguel like being able to like touch him and having that possibility, especially for a Gojo that is literally experienced getting his throat cut out because of that. Like I would imagine, I don't think he's like scared, but I would imagine that Gojo is somewhat wary of that.
He's not excited to do it again. I feel that.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, it's just like, dude, this guy is clearly stronger than everybody else on the battlefield, and he's got an ability that in my past has basically killed me, right? Let me handle him first. Let me beat his ass first, right? And then I'll like get to everybody else, because if I lose, everybody loses, right? If this guy can beat me, you're done. Like you lost.
No
right?
offense.
Yeah, no offense, of course, but like you're not doing anything if I lost to him, right? And that's what I feel about like he's just kind of like in the position Gojo usually is, right? The reason Gojo doesn't win every fight, or the reason stakes aren't low in Jujutsu Kaisen is usually because he's put in positions where he's somewhat handicapped,
Mhm.
right? And when Hanami's fighting, he's put in or not put in, but he's sealed out of most of the fight because of this like anti Gojo
Yeah.
barrier, right? He's restricted in his fight in Shibuya. He's all of these things are usually like he has no reason to go all out, or he can't even if he wanted to. And I think this is like just an example of that. Like Miguel clearly isn't Gojo. But Gojo's like you're pretty tough, right? And you have an ability that messes up my technique. I can't I can't afford to not take you somewhat seriously. Me, like I agree that his portrayal isn't nearly as potent, like as heavy on the I'm the strongest. Like he doesn't like proclaim it for sure. I would agree. Um
And it's not stated by a narrator.
yeah, it's not stated by a narrator or anything. I agree with that.
Like my point isn't like he's weak. By no means is he weak.
Yeah.
But like he's not. There's certain characterization
I
things that just don't line up. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, basically for me, I disagree that the characterization is like not lining up. To me, I just think it's like since his only fight, it's necessary for him to be held back. Gege just wrote him in a way to where he's not as impressive. Like to me, if you put Gojo versus like Hanami and Jogo, and that was the only fight he had, I'd be like, damn, he's really strong, but like he's not like dominating the verse, right? He's like a strong character, pretty strong dude. Wouldn't want to fight him myself. Right. To me, it's similar in the Miguel fight where it's like, yeah, he's strong. Clearly, maybe you could say the strongest one on the battlefield, but like he's just in this weird position where we have to write him out of the fight in a coherent way. Let's put him against somebody who's just really strong on Geto's side and can mess up his technique. And I think like given the time constraints, obviously, that is the best you can do with somebody like Gojo.
All right, I think this is just one of those like agree to disagree things because I'm not like gonna die on this hill, but I do think there is some of character difference in portrayal.
I mean, okay, so I'll say it like this: in the manga version, for sure. But I do think the movie actually adapts it very well because I don't know if you remember, but like in the movie it shows Gojo and Geto's like discussion right before Geto like really left for good, where he's like, if I was you, right, all of my like silly ambitions could turn into a very possible reality. So, and to me that kind of implies you are able to kill every real human and leave only torture.
So is that in the manga?
No, that's what I'm saying. In the movie, like the movie is doing that.
Oh my god, we're at an hour 30 already. Fuck. Okay, let's try to like get to the movie now, like the official movie review now. Cool. Okay. Because that seems the direction we're headed anyway. Just like for timestamp purposes. All right, so I agree with you. I do think that is that moment added a lot to the context, but it relied on the audience member having watched read the manga, because that's the scene that hasn't been adapted in the anime yet, right?
Yeah.
I do think that's a flaw in the movie, because even if you take that scene in a vacuum, it doesn't make sense because Gojo isn't stated to be the strongest. So for all you know, Geto is just above average in strength, right? And he got beat by a 14-year-old. So your impression of him isn't fantastic if Gojo isn't stated to be the strongest and used as a barometer for the rest of the verse. You don't...
So I disagree. Real quick, I'll explain why I think it makes sense in a vacuum, like even without like the foreknowledge. So we know at this point in the story, we know Geto's plan is to kill every human being on the planet and make it so only non-sorcerers are alive, right?
Only sorcerers.
This is obviously only sorcerers. Meaning that like he has to get rid of or like control every curse or kill every human and only leave sorcerers, which means he has to fight, like he has to deal with all of Jujutsu society, right? So even though Gojo isn't verbatim stated the strongest, if he's saying if I was you, I would be able to do it, what he's saying is you, Gojo, can solo the world, right? Like he doesn't say those words specifically, but if I say, hey, currently me, I can't achieve my goal that requires me to fight the entire world, you can, right? That is like inferring that Gojo, you can literally square up and kill everybody who exists. Like, you can do whatever you want, is what Geto is essentially implying, right? He's like, I want to kill every human, I wanted to get rid of every curse, and only leave sorcerers. The Jujutsu High and the Jujutsu Society will not allow that, or at least they won't. They're not just going to sit by. They're going to, like, take up arms against that, right? So for Geto to say, hey, you can do that, even without the context of verbatim stating Gojo's the strongest, that, like, very heavily implies that he can kill everybody that exists right now. And that, to me, is just saying he's the strongest without saying he's the strongest.
I agree. I think I agree. I guess my only problem with it is the fact that, like, from the perspective of somebody who is going in blind, it's a cool, like, it's a tell don't show moment, because, okay, I'm gonna sound like a fucking moron for saying this, but I think if you don't explicitly say a particular thing, it takes a lot of the oomph out of it, right? It's kind of the problem I've been having with Bleach for so long, where a lot of the things that Kubo just did in subtlety I felt was unnecessary because it just didn't need to be subtle. So in JJK, right, like, Gojo is the strongest, carries a lot of the strain of a few particular scenes, in my opinion. Like, if it was, oh yeah, Gojo, he's the strongest guy in our fucking world. If he can't do a thing, it's basically impossible, right? Or something along those lines. And then followed up with that scene, you understand Geto's pain on a more fundamental level. So I actually think they should have adapted the Gojo's past arc into the movie. I know they wouldn't have, and it wouldn't have made, like, total sense, and it would have made the runtime like 3 hours, but, like, Gojo's past as, like, a movie would totally fucking work more than JJK Zero, because JJK Zero, and this is going to be the official movie review, it was really, really good for adapting, what, 5 chapters, 10 chapters?
It's 4
oh
chapters.
My god, bro. What? That's insane. It was an hour and 45-minute movie.
Yeah, 4 chapters of content.
That's insane.
I mean, to be fair, they're long chapters.
Yeah,
they're
but, like,
all of the chapters are like 50 pages.
I get that, but, like, still, man, that's an almost 2-hour movie. Like
Keep in mind, Mugen Train was like a similar length in terms of movie, but it was just 10 normal chapters. So, like, Volume 0 arguably had more content. Because if you do it like this, basically you would double it. So you'd say it's 8 normal chapters, essentially. Like, give or take, it's probably like 10 normal length chapters if you were to say, oh yeah, give it the 20-page max count.
Yeah, I guess with flashbacks and everything, the runtime was whatever. But I just think a lot of the context, or, like, the oomph of it, it's a bad standalone movie, but it's a really great, like, season 0 of the show is like,
so personally,
kind of my review.
the way I would recommend you consuming, like, you people in general who consume JJK, is you watch or read JJK, whatever you prefer, up until Gojo's flashback. Then once you read Gojo's flashback, you watch or read Volume 0, because to me,
yes,
that's when it
when it.
Then after you do that,
because that's when you understand Geto and Gojo's relationship, like, the best.
Then after you do that, you could just read from there. To me, like, and I'm going to be talking about that in my review, I think that, like, the one character that's kind of, like, not bad, but falls massively short of the potential they do have is Geto. He's a very meh, not meh,
because you don't know anything about him, because in the manga, like, his motivations, everything is just so tragic, and, like, you feel for this guy, despite him being a fucking racist, like straight up. But, like, you get it, bro. Like, his abandonment with Gojo, how he, like, fell from being, like, a kind, compassionate sorcerer who just wouldn't kill indiscriminately to being, like, straight up Jujutsu Hitler. Like you understand Geto on, like, a more deep level, and you understand why he feels the way he feels, why he does the things he does, and, like, why other people are sympathetic to his cause.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that context is missing. Like, it's still cool. Like, I think it functions to highlight Yuta more, but that's all it does. Without that context, to me, and like I said, I'll be talking about that in my review. I'm going to be somewhat critical of Geto in there, because I feel like Geto is a, like, B-tier villain without that context. He really is carried, and there's nothing wrong with being carried off of, like, charisma and presence. I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, it worked
for
Frieza.
He doesn't have... For sure. He doesn't have enough of it in this movie to make him, like, one of the best. So I think he's, like, a B tier off of charisma, and then, like, when you get that context, it makes him an A tier, like, retroactively, in terms of, like
even with somebody who had the context, his portrayal in the movie was just kind of, like, manic.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not incorrect, but it's not like it's like out of context Geto.
I do think Ghetto is one of like the weaker aspects. Not the Here's the thing, Ghetto is a really good part of it.
Yeah.
I think if you are like understanding like, or you're comparing Ghetto's portrayal in this prequel to Ghetto's portrayal in the entire series, one, you're being a bit unfair just because of the runtime wise, but two, I understand why you would like that Ghetto so much more, because obviously he has so much more time to like grow and develop, and you see his fall from grace, whereas you see Gojo like ascend into the heavens almost like verbatim in the story.
Yeah.
Right?
Did we give ratings for this fucking movie? No, we didn't. Oh my god.
We haven't.
Okay,
no.
so what did you give this movie?
That's tough. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'm giving it like an 8.5, because like the thing is, like, I can understand why people would rate it a bit lower, but I have the context, so I'm not mad. Like, all this shit makes sense to me. So for me, it's like an 8. I gotta say a 9, because I was gonna say an 8.5 just because, like, oh, it's missing some context, but like I have the context, so like that doesn't affect me personally as a viewer. So for me, like I'm saying like a 9 because, like, damn, that's a good movie.
So I would give it an 8, purely because of the grievances about Gojo's characterization, and I like the thing with context also bugs me, because it just seems unfair to like general audiences, I guess, because like JJK 0, it's a prequel, right?
Yeah.
But like they add scenes like from the future mainline series to kind of try to offset that. So it's like, it's not like the thought didn't cross their minds. I'm just mad they didn't commit to it more, because I feel like it's going to be I think it'll be a 9 after season 2 comes out, because let's be real, not a lot of people who are seeing the movie read the manga.
So I'm not sure. Maybe that's fair. Like, I don't know, honestly. I have no idea.
A lot of people with their kids there and stuff, you know, like it was very much just like another movie, you know. And I think there's a certain level of like respect the medium that you have to like apply here. Maybe I think on home release, and especially like bundled with the other seasons, it'll be like a 9. Like I think definitely after the Gojo's past arc gets adapted, like it'll definitely be like a very big pillar of the JJK like media lore, whatever.
I've always been a big proponent of, like, if for some reason, now you're not, right? But if for some reason you just didn't read or watch JJK and were watching this for some reason, like this far into the video,
like it would, you would literally hate this movie.
Yeah, my watch order or my read order is just read or watch up until Gojo's flashback arc. Volume 0 to me fits perfectly in there. Like it's the perfect, like, okay, we're already flashing back. Now, as we slowly transition back into the present, let's go 1 year before the present, right? Let's see what Geto was up to. Let's see, like, maybe, because like from a viewer's perspective, you're probably wondering, if you just read the flashback, why this guy that we've been seeing in Jujutsu Kaisen has a scar on his head? Like, why does Geto have a scar on his face, right? And you know, I feel like Volume 0 builds that up a little bit more. Builds up a little bit, like a lot of like.
Speaking of things that didn't make sense, did you stay for the after credits scene? Oh my god, bro! I didn't even get a chance to ask you. Did you watch it subbed or dubbed? Oof, I watched it dubbed.
You didn't like it? You didn't like it?
I liked it dubbed. It was just funny because it was there was only one showing per day for the dub, which I thought was really amusing. Okay. Yeah. But I was just curious.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you asked me about the after credit scene, right?
Speaking of things that didn't make sense, the after credit scene was nonsensical, like straight up.
That was just Yuta with Miguel, right?
Like,
and Gojo.
No context about how Miguel just like became a good guy suddenly, like how Gojo found them, why he's even there, why Yuta's there in the first place, how long it's been. Like a lot of, because the last time we saw Miguel, he was getting his ass handed to him by Gojo on Geto's side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess
I don't know how I felt about that. Like, I didn't really care, because like I don't think,
and like, dude, Yuta didn't even Yuta didn't even meet Miguel in the main story. Like that's what that.
Oh no, yes, he didn't.
Because Miguel was out there fighting Gojo, not
No. Okay, are you saying no? Yuta doesn't meet Miguel directly right after, but Yuta was with Miguel in Africa. Like,
no, that's in the mainline series. No, I'm talking about like within the context of the movie's timeline.
Yeah, I'm saying, well, it flashes forward, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, it flashes forward in time. Like, you can tell Yuta's a bit older.
Yeah, but like, how much time? Like, how did he even become friends with Miguel when they didn't even meet in the first place during the night parade?
I
Just
mean,
small stuff.
wait, wait, so are you asking me like how, or are you saying like it doesn't make sense within the context
It
of the
doesn't make
movie?
sense within the context of the movie because like they had no way of like forming a relationship because they weren't like really in the same room.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like when I look at an after credit scene. I'm not really expecting it to like really not make sense. Obviously, I want it to make sense, but like it doesn't have to really fit very well into what was shown in the movie. Like so, for example, what I was expecting for the after credit scene, I thought they were going to do something where they have Yuta saying, you know, like I'll make a binding vow to kill Yuji.
Yeah,
Or
right. Like
whatever, and then it
I
was
thought
going
it
to go
was like
black.
during because at that point the main series started.
Yeah. But that wouldn't make sense either, right? Contextually, like, oh, why does Yuta want to kill Yuji? How does Yuta even know who Yuji is? Like, I just think an after credit scene is meant to like, it's like, oh, this is something else that happens post movie. It'll be recontextualized with later content. That's the way I look. That's the way I view an after credit scene. Like, it's like this is future things that will be relevant. Get excited. That's all I see it as. Um,
Yeah.
so like, yeah. So I personally am
I'm
not
not.
like
I mean, I'm not
I'm not like,
mad,
oh,
right? I just
yeah, no,
like
I get that.
quirky. That's an interesting way to do that.
Yeah.
Also, it's like an after credit
I mean,
scene. I'm not gonna like dock points for that, you know.
for sure. But yeah, honestly, good movie, really great experience. I feel like, God, were the visuals so
Yes,
good?
that we can
That
agree,
shit looked
bro. Fucking 10 out of
so
10. Yeah.
good.
No, I
Yeah.
think this was a really good episode. I don't think we touched on literally every part of everything. Otherwise, we'd be here for like more time.
God, there was so much I could have talked about for Jujutsu Kaisen. That
Yeah.
chapter, God.
I will
Yeah.
say, great movie, great experience.
I'll say, yeah, the chapter coming out really in close, like in close relation to when the movie came out. I doubt Gege planned it, but I'm gonna give him credit for that because why the fuck not? That shit's
And you know,
that's fire.
I felt like so inspired again by the movie. I was like, oh shit, I forgot that I like this series a lot. Like it's my third favorite series, and I think I've said that before, but like, man, being a YouTuber, it doesn't make you not love the things you love, but you do feel a little bit like you can't enjoy it the same way as like a typical consumer.
For sure, because everything you turn a product into a product for other people.
So it was just like it was nice to let myself enjoy it, right? Because I mean, obviously, you know, I went on Twitter and like I fucking flexed my JJK shirt. I don't know if you saw that, but like, I fucking love that shirt. I'm gonna send it to you right now. I just want you to see it.
Yeah. I mean, even now, like I'm like in the theater. I think it makes it look much more of a interesting experience, just because like, you know, I'm not doing like I'm just there to experience it. Now I get to read not read. Now I get to script and give my entire in-depth review on the movie. Yay.
Are you excited? Do you know, that's also the thing I was going to follow up with. I sent the picture. But when I say I felt inspired, I mean, A, to reread and enjoy the series just privately again. Because today, I even restarted the anime. Like, before this call, I was just like rewatching it for fun. Just for fun. Because I'm like, yeah.
Just to enjoy it, not for a video, not for research.
I wasn't taking notes or anything. I was just vibing. I was like, oh yeah, fucking love this series. And then, you know, because I'm still a YouTuber, I also had a second wave of inspiration where I was like, man, I kind of want to start making JJK vids again.
JJK videos are fun.
Yeah. And realize something. We have never, in the time span of like knowing each other, ever had a period where we're both making JJK content. Because the tier list thing was, you know how my old format was 3 videos of like analysis, tier list is like the finale, right? So you got in like on the finale of my first JJK cycle. So I hopped on the Bleach train like right after, right? So it's funny, we've never like made JJK content at the same time.
Yeah, which is interesting because I'm always making JJK content, like all the time.
Like I'm fucking my channel is like fucking ADHD, man. Like it's like whatever I'm hyper focused on at the time is what I make videos on, and I feel like bound to that. I've been slowly loosening my grip on that, because of you, actually. You know, shout out, you know, Broken Ronin, best podcast co-host ever.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I looked at your videos and I was like, yeah, all right. I don't just have to make videos about the same thing 8 times in a row before I get burnt out on it and have to start doing that from scratch the next time with a different show.
Yeah, you can just like, hey, I enjoyed this. Let me make a video on it, then let me move on to something else I enjoyed.
So I'm pretty psyched about that, and fuck, we didn't get a touch on the poll results. I'll just do that really quickly. So poll results, Honored One's first poll, whatever. We asked you guys what speed you watch the greatest podcast on Earth on. And much to my shock, with what is it? Oh, let me pull up the numbers real quick. This is why we need a Jamie.
Wasn't it like 86% like normal or something? I don't know. I think it was something like that.
Crazy. Like I didn't expect. And then we can get into a conversation about like my abilities as a viewer. But with 338 votes tallied, 86% of people said they watched it at normal speed. What the hell? What?
Because it is normal.
Dude, that is psychotic to me. That is demon energy. Like, I want to get into into some of these replies, and the broad strokes purposes, like the comment I see most often in response to this poll is that people just like listen to us. I couldn't believe that.
Yes.
What?
That's normal. That is regular. Even like with like so I'm listening to like this like 9-hour review of a video of a movie, right? And I'm not speeding this up at all, bro. You gotta bask in the lack of brevity that they have. Because think about it like this, right? A lot of people listen to this stuff to pass time or to like while they do something, like say work out or drive. So if they blitz through it, right, they're blitzing through the content they have in order to like not be bored. I'd imagine that like unless you're like, so like I get it with like tutorials, like you're trying to get information, you're trying to get it quickly, but like if you're just trying to be entertained, I want to be entertained for longer personally.
Maybe I'm the weird one, because I just watched, I've mentioned this so many times, but like I watch my shit at like 2.5x speed sometimes if I'm feeling particularly impatient. Like I got a plugin specifically just to increase my speed.
Yeah. I mean,
obviously I don't expect people to go that hard, but I always assumed people were just, ravenous. I'll say, like they want more. They want as much as they can, stuffed in, no pauses, no breaks. And I'm starting to think maybe it's just me.
It's not necessarily just you, but I think you got to understand what audience you're like shooting for, right? If you're trying to go for like the brief, the quick, the snappy, an hour and 30-minute discussion on Jujutsu Kaisen is not the place people, like those people are not going to be looking at that, right? They're going to be looking at these quick 8-minute discussions about something, then they're going to move on, right? In my opinion, if you want a podcast, you're going to get a podcast at normal speed, most likely. That's how I envision it personally.
Fucking respect to everybody that watches from beginning to end on normal speed. I'm sorry that I say so often. I try my best to get rid of them, but I appreciate if you bear with it nonetheless.
I think that's why you kind of, not you in particular, but like, for example, I'm much more brief and like quick with the editing. I at least try to be with like explain videos. Like, bro, I'm not even sure, like I barely allow a gap, but like with other videos, I'm like, yeah, sometimes you can bask in like what I said for half a second without it being a problem or anything and things like that. So,
all right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, etc.
Yeah, bye.